So, I know Scott, many years back, you look familiar.
We may have met. I teach social studies in Fort Fairfield. I actually teach a dual enrollment anthropology class. I
Okay.
guess this is the closest fit to that.
Oh, okay, so you're probably the third person.
Might be.
Okay, and you
I'm
are-
James Smith, also from Fort Fairfield, and I'm doing psychology.
Okay, so psych, and anthro. Okay. Well, most of what I put together anyway isn't really about psych. Part of it is. Part of it is just about college, high school. So do you guys have any background? What I mean, what's your background in the courses that you teach?
I've been teaching the AP psychology for
So you teach AP?
AP psych, yeah, for the past 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has it been a learning experience?
Oh, yeah,
for you?
absolutely.
What are you using?
Myers.
Okay, yeah, that's the book I
Which
use.
complements the yellow textbook here too, so. The Myers, the.
I use
Psych
Myers, I mean,
100, yeah.
there are a gazillion versions of it.
Yeah.
What do you use?
I use the Systematica.
I am not a psychologist. I didn't major in it. Actually, this is going to be a little bit my confession time. I was hesitant to teach it.
Right.
I did my major in secondary social studies and concentrated in history. And I guess I never had a really good experience with psychology.
But you had it in high school?
And I had it in high school. And
But
Garrett,
more of a pop psychology that you
Yeah.
had in high school. And knowing that, because I was already teaching there, and then the person next to me retired, and James filled that position, so.
so it wasn't, yeah, pop psychology. And I didn't think I was interested in it. And Garrett said, you know, we really should be offering this. I wish you consider teaching. And I resisted for a couple of years and finally relented, and I think it's my favorite class to teach.
But
Without a doubt,
I think I think I'm observing some growth in your thinking that you can recognize the difference between pop psychology and real psychology, because a lot of people don't. Right? And I know where you're coming from in terms of getting, you know, when I first came here, they made me teach deviant behavior, which is sociology. I said, deviant behavior, you mean abnormal psych? No, deviant. I didn't even know that such a thing existed, right? So, you know, just trial by fire kind of thing.
I've been doing that about 5 years.
Okay.
And
Dual enrollment the last 2 or 3, right?
right, we did dual enrollment with Thomas before we started here.
So we switched.
But I really liked it. I had the opportunity to go down to Clark University for a summer program last year.
Okay.
It was 3 or 4 days long, and they had a really neat program that helped me.
We keep taking the classes.
Yeah, I'm taking social psychology.
See, I'm a social psychologist, so
Okay.
so I think you'll probably find that interesting. Okay, so, well, I'm a social psych. My name's Kurt. I'm a social psychologist. I went to college in Michigan. I went to grad school in Texas, and I'm particularly interested in social influence. Right now, I've taken up a new interest, as a lot of people have, in the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you heard about that? It's become quite the popular thing.
The name's coming to us, yeah.
It's the idea that people who are not good at what they do or incompetent don't recognize that they're incompetent.
Sort of like advancing to your level of inadequacy. Remember something?
That's somebody else's model, I think, but everybody's talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect these days. Most recently, it's like to Trump. Yeah. So, anyhow,
He presents an interesting case study.
And Garrett is an anthropology major.
I guess, I majored in anthropology and political science.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity to teach that.
it's interesting that you know, once you've been doing something for a while, you kind of forget that other people don't know what you know, right? So, for example, I don't know anything about anthropology. I think I had an anthropology class in college way back when. I couldn't tell you the first thing about it.
It ties in so well with, I mean, to be honest, it steals from psychology and sociology a lot. I think anthropologists would just say, well, we study humans in all times and places, basically, you know? But, you know, you could go the archaeology route, or the
Right.
cultural anthropology and
Right.
sociology type route, or, you know, physical, biological, looking at human evolution, or language, being a linguist. Those are really the four, you know, fields within it.
Okay.
And I focus mainly on cultural, but try to introduce students to those four areas.
The most recent thing that I've been reading by a guy whose name I can't remember, it's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, has been saying that, but what it just makes sense, is that, you know, we tend to pride ourselves on our vocabularies and our niches and our specializations, but in fact, what it does is it isolates us, right? That these, you know, anthropology and psychology and sociology, that these distinctions are, you know, largely artificial ones. But it, you know, it's come that way, and it prevents us from conversing right across disciplines, let alone, and this was this guy's point. It was a book about education. He said it keeps us from recognizing the real point, and that is to serve our students and have them become thinkers. And, you know, if you can tell them how to, you know, if you can just tell them your vocabulary in anthropology, and then they go to the next class and they learn their vocabulary in psychology, where does the thinking part come in, right? So that's just something to think about. So you know, this is the good point, I guess, to start formal thinking about what I want us to talk about. And the first one is, I wanted you to tell me a little bit. I might not be able to get this to work unless I point it right at the thing, or ever. I want us to talk about how I'm assuming that you've taught both kinds of classes, and I'm wondering if you can tell me how your early college class is different from high school class. I'm trying to get it, you know, what's high school versus college, and what do you do that's different? What do you think you should be doing that's different?
One of the things that I see is different, although I didn't have anthropology in high school, but I'm just thinking, you know, even AP classes, whatever, is the student independence following the syllabus, you know, trying to get them to do that more independently in the homework course.
Okay.
I find that
So in high school, what happens?
pull them along, chase them down a little more, you know.
Okay.
Try to get them to come see me if they have questions, rather, I know you have questions, you're coming in this time.
Right.
Try to get them to, you know, think about seeking out a professor during their office hours if they're having trouble with course content and something like that.
That is exactly what I discovered in my research and preparation for this. So I never taught high school, and it's been more years than I can count since I've been in high school. The only thing I remember about high school is that everybody flocked to the nearest fight to watch what was happening. I don't remember much about what happened in the classes and stuff. But in the research that I've done, in preparation for this, independence seemed to be a big thing. I wasn't sure if that was going to get brought up, but boom, right away. Anybody else?
I think it's, the depth.
Okay.
That you're going into a lot of depth with the students about the different ideas, theories, concepts. And the students like that. They really absorb it. It's not just, like you said, the pop psychology. It's not just skimming over, glossing over a few concepts. For years in the high school, we taught a semester or a trimester course in psychology. I mean, it just wasn't enough. And
So how does it happen? I mean, when it's not in depth, what does it look like?
it's instead of covering, you end up covering this much, but you go that much in depth, as opposed to with the dual enrollment. I can still, with a full year course,
Right.
I can go this much, and I can go that much. And the students, they want that challenge. They like that thinking. that, and being able to work to internalize learning.
Something I've done with my dual enrollment course that I would not have considered before dual enrollment is a literature review, and that goes along with depth. They use library databases and use academic journals and choose a topic
I
and
was gonna
actually
say-
read peer-reviewed.
Oh, good.
Peer-reviewed
Good.
academic journals
Good.
is something we don't normally get to, I would say, in a high school class where we do trying to have them read people that are actually doing studies and,
Right.
looking at
Summarize
the
the conclusion of
theories.
the study and.
Okay.
Also doing some sort of project where they need to research and use those
Excellent.
resources.
Okay.
Going to the library, looking at EBSCOhost and databases and things.
So I'm hearing projects and applications. So, because I'm still trying to get my head around, because that's, kind of the way I've always aspired to do that. And I don't really know exactly what's the alternative. Is it really, well, here's some words to know? Is that what you mean by when you're not going in depth?
Well, you cover the chapter in the textbook, but you don't actually look at anything written by the person who
Okay.
did the study and has that theory, like you were talking about. Okay, yeah, they mentioned.
So,
that theory.
so this is what you need to know? What's in the book? Okay.
Maybe.
Does that sound?
Well, see, I'm teaching the way it is at Fort Kane Community High School. It's advanced placement psychology / PSY 100. So part of it is I'm preparing students to take the AP exam in early May. So yeah, there's a lot of, content there.
Yeah, you probably do have to teach to that.
I
test
do,
some extent.
to an extent, yeah.
But the people that aren't in the advanced,
They're all in the same, it's all one.
how's that work?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
It's probably a challenge we all face because,
Yeah.
you got students who
Yeah.
just don't have a clue, and you've got students who are right there.
Well, no, I mean, the students who are there for the college portion of it, the dual enrollment portion, I mean, they get into it
Yeah.
as well.
We
And-
probably have more of that than you do, because
Right.
ours is dual enrollment or not. You can just take it for high school credit. With yours, you've got
Right.
AP or dual enrollment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so there's, after this year, I didn't know what it was gonna look like, no, this was the first year I was teaching it. I believe that the two need to be separated out, but here's the other challenge. I think if you separate the two out in a small rural school, exactly, in the class won't run.
Yeah, we got that problem.
Yeah, so I have 12 students in that class right now. But I think if you were to separate it out, you'd end up having 6 students and 5 students in one, 7 in the other, and in the end, it would not be allowed to run because of resources. And I get that.
Do students have to take the AP?
Well, this year was different because I had, out of 12 students, I only had 5 students taking the AP test. But I didn't know that until March. And so I kept having to make sure that I was moving along at pace so they would be ready for the AP exam. The 5 students took the AP exam on the first Monday in May. Yeah, so that was the challenge that I was facing.
Why, there's so many buzzwords and renditions of things here.
Yeah.
What is the difference between AP and dual enrollment? Are there students in your course who are not even trying to take it for college credit?
No, they're all taking it for college credit, some are taking it for AP.
I do have.
Which is college credit?
Yes.
Yeah, if you get a 3, 4, or 5 on the AP.
What if you take a dual enrollment class and don't pass the AP exam? Do you still get college credit?
Yes, you do.
I'm really confused.
Yeah, that's where my confusion is too.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's the reason we're not doing AP.
Yeah.
I did teach AP using a digital program for like US history. We had some
Yeah.
students do it, but we've had many more students, we had 2, 3 students do that.
yeah,
You have 2 semesters worth of psychology with 15 to 20 kids in each, and we only have 30 kids in a class.
yeah.
And I have 15 in my anthropology class. There are a couple that are not taking it for college
I
credit.
do have a few not doing for college credit.
We don't,
It's the same amount
it's
of
the
work.
same course, same amount of work. Some of them, it's a, I don't know, intimidation, maybe.
Okay, maybe they don't want to transfer.
Yeah.
I had one senior who claims that she checked into it before she went to college, and her college didn't accept the credit for the UMFK, so she got this one too. But
Right.
I know which student that is, and that might be true. It could be.
I think we got a dead USB port here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my file onto this machine and plug my clicker into the one live USB port, unless you can find me a third USB port. This is not working. And this one wasn't working when I
Most
was in
students,
there.
they're all near with college, but only five.
So I'm going to copy this
Took the AP
onto,
exam, but
close
whether I
this.
have, if I have 2 or 1,
I'm going to just copy this here.
they need to be separated out.
Now
Yeah.
I
They're two different courses.
To think about, if you come to this class, you go to the APs, then you get college credits.
Yeah.
And then-
Yes, I am going to use that
Object,
project,
but
but let me see
Right.
now, is this
Right.
going to work?
And then, I don't.
And maybe
my
you guys can
experience
put that on
with
the
HP was
This is
US
this is the problem.
Yeah.
That is a dead
college,
port.
excuse me, in high school, and
Fix
then I
it.
taught it
Yeah.
a couple of times in high school, so we had a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Very much teach to the test, gotta move through.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta move on the pace.
Yeah.
You know, AP is very
Very prescriptive.
prescriptive, exactly. the word.
Prescriptive, yeah.
So I wonder how that works.
Yeah,
with-
it's tough, it's a challenge, you know,
So you have a full year?
full year.
I'm not sure, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that semester so far, which is a
Ah.
challenge.
Oh, yeah?
Well, that's something we could look at.
I haven't.
Okay, well, I'll just,
Spend time.
you know, I didn't want to have to work from here.
I think,
because I want to
I
be
think
in
the
that conversation with these guys, yeah,
the dual
right?
enrollment is asking,
So-
I could do that, but
I
we're
don't
not in
know what else
semester,
to do.
trimester.
Trimesters, right.
That's a
Yeah.
smaller block of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
not
would
bad.
be hesitant to switch it to one year.
Yeah.
Because that also gives kids less chance to take intro or graduate some knowledge than the other people.
Might make them less likely.
No, I think they're
It might,
triple A's.
yeah, I think.
So my kids are, you know, they're in it for the full year for the 180, for the 1 college credit, or for 3 college credits. For some kind of-
But then again,
Yeah.
for college, that's a special course,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
What I find myself doing since we have dual enrollment is far less formative assignments.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and
Moving through them.
Since you're in one.
so,
that's-
yeah, so in college, you don't have
College
to,
is-
you don't have practice problems that get graded, you know?
Okay.
That's another thing we should
We
probably
should,
mention. So, you know, in the high school setting today, with the move towards proficiency-based education, there's a lot of talk about formative work for practice and
Yep.
summative work, you gotta, you know, whether we should grade formative work or not. And
Right.
one thing we were just talking about is, you know, in a college course, a daily homework assignment, you know, your homework is to make sure you understand and remember what you learned last class, what was covered, what you did, and then are ready for the next one in preparation. Whereas a lot, I think high school classes are a lot, you know, I gotta give you a homework assignment to practice so we get ready.
Right.
You know, we don't have daily math
College
problems.
course, there may be significant reading, but not.
Not an answer to the question.
Not an answer to
Yeah.
questions, or
Right.
a matching sheet, or, you know, map to fill out. or
Right, so
something
what do you
like
think the consequences of that are for teaching your classes?
that. You know, one thing I've noticed this year more than others when I enter college is low grades on some of the assessments, is they're not studying, prepping,
Right.
because I'm not forcing them to with an
Right.
assignment, they're supposed to do practice.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
But the textbook that I'm using has some practice quizzes online, so I'm trying to teach them, but very often, you know, there'll be
Yeah.
something available online, maybe in Blackboard or whatever, where you can practice or, you know, so.
I mean, I use practice quizzes too. Fairly certain that students use practice quizzes as a way to get points. Whereas we want them to be using practice quizzes as a way to learn. That's the whole idea of the formative stuff.
Yeah.
I do give them points for it, you know, because otherwise they won't do it, but I don't give them lots of points. You know, I guess you could talk until you're blue in the face to convince them that it's not about the points. One thing that I think is effective is, as a psychologist, right, and what you know about learning and memory, is to teach them that the easiest way to get those points and to remember information is to understand it, right? Just beat them over the head again and again and again. You are shortchanging yourself if you try to score points without understanding, right? Because it's easier just to get it, right? Then it sticks and you can stop studying. And so I try to drive that home in a couple of places. You know, it fits in when you talk about learning and memory. It fits in when you talk about development, right? Because cognitive development is about the development of understanding, right? I talk about infantile amnesia. I say the reason why infants can't remember stuff is because they don't understand stuff. It's got nothing to do with their neurosurgery, right? I'll give a little example you might have seen or used, which is an entirely confusing blurb about what to do when sorting things and putting them into piles and stuff. You heard this one?
It's an activity, I think I've done something similar to anthropology. It's built more around language. If you don't understand the language that someone's using, like a dialect, for example, how could you understand the instructions?
Right.
I have a symbol activity that sounds sort of similar, where they have to figure out which, it's a series of what appears to be gibberish symbols, and they have to figure out which one's true or false.
And that's
and over time,
find out the rule.
Find out the rule.
Deductive reasoning.
And some of them can figure out the rule pretty quick, and others are clueless at the end of it until it's explained.
Sounds like something I had to do in graduate school. So this thing, okay, so it sounds like it might be kind of ringing bells, but yeah. So you know, it's a paragraph, and the students read the paragraph, and I read it to them. And it tells you about how the necessity for this task is kind of endless, and you have to sort things into piles, and you might have to go to facilities, and then the whole process starts all over again. And then boom, next slide, I ask them questions, right? I just gave you this information. It wasn't 30 seconds ago. What did it say? What was the first step? Whether you have to do this depends on what? What was the third step, right? Nobody gets it. When I tell them that what it means is the theme or the schema for this thing is it's about your laundry day, right? The piles are piles of clothes, colored clothes, white clothes. The facilities are a laundromat, right? We go back to again. Then I ask them questions again, and of course they get it. They had zero memory for what they didn't understand, okay? So you get to tell them that, I tell them that when we talk about how science works, on day one, science is about understanding, right? I say theories are your friends, because theories help us to understand. Students are scared of theories. They don't want to hear about theories. I've had students come to me for advising and say, I don't want to take this class, it's got a bunch of theories. Right? Theories are your friend. If you're a student, you understand, when you know the theory, then you understand the thing, then you remember it all. Then everything falls into place and it makes sense. So you can
apply it to situations.
So you can beat them over the head with understanding is easiest. It's efficient. It's going to save you time and effort. You can beat that over their heads when you talk about science and theories. You can beat that over their heads when you talk about cognitive development, right? Development of schemas with understanding. You can beat that over their heads again when you talk about learning and memory, right? Just over and over and over again. And finally, some of them may well relent and stop memorizing stuff. You know, and I guess you gotta feel sorry for them because they've been doing this for so long that it's hard to give up.
We train them to do it. I mean, it's about points and grade and
we're all part of the system, right? So you guys are fighting the same battle that I'm fighting. Right? So, but I would encourage you to just drive it. If they hear it enough times, and if they hear it enough from you, and then again they hear it from me later on, maybe some of them will actually start trying to figure out, and then maybe they'll start sharing the ideas with their friends. Hey, you know, it's actually easier this way. And you know what? You know, you'll have something to show for it when you're done with the class. You know, I mean, I've heard students in graduation day saying, I didn't learn a thing. You didn't learn a thing because you didn't learn a thing, right? You know, you just memorized a bunch of stuff. All right, so I found this website which talked about differences between high school and college, which maybe you can confirm. I think you already have confirmed some of the differences between college and high school. And you know, they say, you know, for example, college is mandatory and it's free, so you have to push students through it. In college, you know, you can flunk. And students, I don't think, have figured this out, that either they or their parents, are paying for their Fs, right? And anyway, it goes on and on. but it's got some bottom line, some guiding principles at each one, which I thought were kind of useful and that I built into my little PowerPoint presentation here, one of which I need. These were the guiding principles that I distilled from that thing. And if you look over them, and see if we can distill what the common theme is. On the one hand, your teacher's going to tell you what to do, and your teacher's going to tell you what to learn in high school, they tell me. Whereas in college, you're responsible for what to do. For example, keeping up with your readings. You're responsible to figure out what's important, what's to read and understand. I would say what's important. Got a little reminder to myself. I'm reading another book by Elizabeth Warren. You heard of her?
State U.S. Senator,
Yeah. She persisted.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's a law professor who's taught at Harvard. And started out, she learned at a community college. She's a law professor at Harvard, right? So, it doesn't have to do with, your educational background, you can make it, right? Her point of her book is that she did this on $50 a term, thanks to government helping her out, and that kids these days can't do that. But she describes learning. She describes why she loves teaching, and in fact, she may go back to teaching sometime. She loves teaching because she assigns her Harvard students a reading. They do the reading, and she uses the Socratic method. She doesn't tell them what they need to know. She asks them questions. She describes it like, I love that moment when I ask them the question. I see the light go off in their eyes. She loves that. It makes her want to come back for more. I've never had that. This is my experience. I assign a reading. Students don't do the reading. I ask them a question. They don't. They look at me blankly. I ask them a question a different way. They look at me blankly. I tell them the answer to my question. They look at me blankly. Okay. So there's something different. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that students have taken what this kind of approach that we've agreed, that high school pushes, to some extent college pushes, of them being, letting them be passive. So that you tell them to do a reading and they say, well, the teacher will tell me what's going to work later on, right?
I had college classes that way too.
Yeah. It happens.
Yeah. But the third one down, the learning environment.
Yeah.
That's something Jim Doak's been talking about a lot, our superintendent. Our school's really a place of learning.
Okay.
Has the emphasis been in high school? Is it really about learning? Well, a lot of these kids is just getting through it.
Yep.
Grades, credits, out.
Yeah.
And I think some of that maybe has gone to the college level as well. Is this really a place of learning? One of the things I find that has helped with that is I brought in David Putnam from Umpqui. Do you know him? He's
Heard of him.
He's fat, and I call him one of the most interesting people in the world. Anyway, he's a college professor. He teaches some geology and some anthropology at Umpqui.
Really?
But he's an interesting character, and I try to expose him to the fact that people out doing research in college, that's disconnect sometimes for them. The people that are teaching these classes are also studying the things they're teaching about, and they're really passionate about the content. That isn't a high school teacher.
Right. Well, yeah, it's not your typical high school teacher. But isn't there, but you're right, I mean, isn't it neat that people can become that passionate about ideas and thinking about stuff, and isn't it fun
Well, that's what
to
I'm
talk to those people?
So I try to promote that. That's what college should be about.
Right.
Like,
So you're talking about modeling.
Yeah. And bringing him in to talk about the research he just did in Mongolia.
Right.
So I'm teaching about anthropology. So when you know anthropology, what do you do with it?
Right.
What can you go study?
For a while in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess there isn't the funding for you guys to do any of that.
No. or the time.
Sure.
We have so many, unfunded mandates and limited time. Take students have to do research.
Then, you get 100 students facing you each and every day, I go from teaching this to teaching freshmen world history. So, it's a challenge.
And, but there's really no substitute for showing that you're interested, right?
Right, oh yeah, and that's what I try to do. I try to, you mentioned, Mandura's model. And, I do that each and every day, not with just my AP, my psychology students, but my global studies. And looking at, pulling them in, getting them to think, getting them to internalize the learning rather than just memorize the learning. The other thing too, the students in my class, they're juniors. You gotta remember they're juniors in high school. They're approaching that, that higher cognitive, but, we're also, like you said, kind of handcuffed in the way that the K-12 system has worked. Students think that learning is memorization. I heard that from a couple students yesterday. I said, no. I said, learning is about internalizing. It's not about memorizing. It's about setting it to long-term memory, not just having it sit in short-term memory for a test and then 20 minutes later you forget it. So this way when getting the students to think deeper and coming up with those questions.
Have you heard of any of the stuff on metacognition?
Oh, yeah.
Buzzword these days?
Yeah.
So they got terrible metacognition. They don't know.
And there was a big push in professional development for teachers in the state on that for a while, but that was a passing fad.
Yeah.
That was right at the beginning of my career. And I think it's still important, but we don't teach them enough about thinking.
Right.
Directly.
Right.
Teach content, maybe not thinking.
Right.
And I think I have some colleagues that don't think about how their assessment practices reinforce memorization instead of learning.
Of thinking.
And thinking.
Yeah.
That's, I think from my perspective, K-12 educators, myself included, always use more on learning and thinking.
Metacognition. I use that word with my students all the time. My freshmen know that.
I think that might be why my psychology students were so confused by my final exam. I just ended up, I'd like to share that with you at some point and see if you think it's good, frankly. But I basically gave them the objectives for the course, and I said, you need to choose a certain number of these, and you need to describe the concepts or a topic within these objectives and the concepts related to it. And you need to do elaborative rehearsal. You need to tell me how these concepts have applied to you in the past, do apply to you now, or may apply to you in the future. And they looked at this final and said, what is this? What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I said, I want you to think.
Yeah. I had that kind of experience in spades when I was down in South Carolina. I was teaching at an HBCU, historically black college and university. And the students were underprivileged, and their training up until then had been really deplorable. I mean, South Carolina's terrible, okay? And they would do things like be on their cell phones in the middle of class and think nothing of it. When, of course, you can't be paying attention. They would refuse to read. They wouldn't buy the book. And then you got to sit there and, how do you justify making them buy a book when you can afford it but they can't, kind of thing? And you hear about how they can't buy the book. Well, talking about hands being tied. But if you ask them anything other than to give it back a definition, they just give you blank stares. And even with definitions, change a word, boom, they're gone. So that's not right. That's a waste of time, right? I mean, some preaching to the choir here. We know that's a waste of time. You just got to take what you're given, and you got to move ahead. It's a shame that we kind of have to undo, because if this problem had been addressed, if these kids had been well trained from grade school, then we could move ahead. My little nephew has gotten the best of the best, including coaching for how to get into the best colleges and all this other stuff. But I mean, he's doing stuff. He was doing stuff in the 8th grade that I can't do. Let alone my students in a statistics class. At the end of a statistics class, when you're struggling with mean, median, and mode, something's wrong. I digress. Okay, so, but the point here, you know, you're talking about the emphasis being on a learning environment, and really you don't think a lot of learning goes on that really is just to get points and to get out. That's a problem. But the point that's being made here, and I don't know if you've heard this distinction between teaching and learning, right? So it's one thing, when we talk about teaching, it's the onus is on the instructor, right? Oh, I got to teach you something. But really what needs to happen is learning. Students learn, teachers teach, right? Ultimately, I can't make you learn, right? I can do what I do and use what I know about psychology to facilitate your learning, but you have to learn. And if you're not going to open the book, and you're not going to do the assignments, you're not going to learn, and it doesn't matter what I do, right? And then finally, the difference between, you know, effort and results. I don't know much from that. Does effort count?
In the high schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't rate it exclusively, but effort may result in opportunities for them to demonstrate mastery more than one time.
Okay. All right. I was telling a colleague just the other day, I was talking, and I've got students I feel bad for. I mean, I've got this one student, just last semester in my research methods class. She tries so hard, she works, and she just doesn't, you know, it's just not going to happen. You know, I feel bad to be so fatalistic about it, but the fact that she tries so hard and still struggles so much, you know, she's fighting an uphill battle. You know, I just can't give her, you know, in the end, here's your grade. Your grade reflects, and I've told this to students many times, your grade reflects what you know, and that's it, right? In the same way that your pay, and I get to put this in words that they understand, your pay from your boss down the road is going to reflect the benefits that you bring to him, and nothing else. It doesn't matter how hard you try, he wants to see some productivity, right? So, you know, part of the learning experience isn't just learning the content, it's not just even understanding, but it's practicing behaviors that are going to benefit you later on. So for example, you've got to meet deadlines. You've got to produce, right? You've got to be able to manage your time. And that's part of what's learned. Right? Anyway, the common theme really here, if you wrap all this up together, is what you talked about. It's about independence. It's about teaching versus learning, right? Students are more independent in college, and they should be more independent in your college classes, okay? So we shouldn't have to hound them and look after them and make sure that these things happen. They need to be convinced at some point that the onus is on you.
Can I share an example?
Yeah.
So very often I've found in my master's classes that professors would post a quiz online in a window
Right.
in which to
Right.
complete it.
Right.
Okay? How many times this year have I gotten an email, hey, the quiz window closed, I didn't get to it, can I take it?
Yeah.
You know, and our school allows 2 days for each day absent,
Right.
and then we also have a late work policy, you can get up to a 70 if you do it by the next class week.
Okay.
I said, no, the window was open a
Good.
week, you know?
Good.
And that was a battle of, well, the policy is, yeah, well, that's true, but the first day you could take the quiz was this day, and then you had 7 days that you
Yeah.
could take it. And that happened a lot, this particular day.
It's hard to
Yeah.
put your foot down.
No, because you want them to do well.
You do.
You ultimately want them to
We
take
are
the
in the
quiz.
business of giving them chances and
Yes.
opportunities.
Right.
That's-
But I said, all right, this class, the window's been open a week, I gotta put my foot down somewhere. Why not just leave the quizzes open all the time, you know? And then I said, and I'm not preparing them for what they might see.
Exactly, and that was another thing
But
that
I am, giving a behavioral grade
Right,
and
right.
not a learning.
Sure.
grade, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
that's a problem for me, you know? Maybe the student can show me they understand the concepts on that quiz, but I didn't let them because of the way I don't know.
That's a good way of putting it, I hadn't thought about that, but you know, they need to be able to do both. All right, and if they don't get to show, if they don't come to work, they're not gonna be able to show their boss that they can do their job, and they're still gonna get fired, right? All right, so the question that I had, and PowerPoint is a little what I wanted to do. So given that the emphasis is not on teaching but on learning, how do we get students to learn? Okay, and I'm sure other people have different answers to this question, but my approach has always been to focus on the big ideas, okay, or theories, or associative processes. It's all one and the same, okay, that help us make sense of the content, all right? So I may not even get around to defining terms because I'm assuming that you know the terms, all right?
Assuming that you're regularly.
Right. Right. Sometimes I define the terms. So I've switched lately to PowerPoints. I was really always kind of against PowerPoints because I think it's kind of like watching TV. But if you don't have a choice these days. I mean, there are some rooms where you won't even find a whiteboard, you know. So you're kind of stuck. I ran into that probably on South Carolina. That was kind of my impetus. I had this auditorium. And the stage was up here and back here, and then there was this big projection screen. So I couldn't even go to a whiteboard. So I had to switch to PowerPoints. And I have since found, I like them because I can embed audio, I can embed video.
So it supports the presentation.
What's that?
As long as it supports the presentation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I never have a clip that's more than a couple minutes long.
Jim, have you ever seen the Death by PowerPoint video?
No.
You should look that up.
Yeah.
It's more business oriented than academic, but it's applicable.
We show it to our students, the two of us, before they do presentations.
The stuff that you can make happen.
It's an entire slide of text that
Oh,
they
yeah,
read,
yeah, right.
But there's one of those, the PowerPoint proposal this guy proposes to his wife, he's cool, that makes a point.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Do you guys use PowerPoint?
Do I? No, I don't.
Okay.
I use my smartboard, but,
Right.
I put my things up on the smartboard, but like you said, I get embedded links, and my video, that's it. Usually 6-7 minutes or less.
Yeah.
I use it
Support it,
with very little text on it, more images.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
links,
They've actually done really interesting research, a little bit a year about, where they have allowed an audience to read, they've allowed an audience to hear the points orated, but they've allowed the audience to do both. So I put something up there and then I read it to you as we've experienced. And then they monitor what goes on in people's heads, and they find out that people actually, they can only process one mode at a time. So that when you are reading to them what's on the PowerPoint, they're actually shutting down one effortfully. They're not looking, they'll avert their gaze. So I want to hear it, or I want to see it, but I won't want both. It's overload, right? So that's why, you shouldn't have a bunch of text on PowerPoint. And I have not been able to solve the problem. I didn't think that PowerPoint would solve this problem, but I have not been able to solve the problem, despite the Google times I've told students, your notes should not look like what I present, right? Whether I present it on the board or whether I present it on the PowerPoint, this is an organizational scheme just to keep us on track. The real information is between the bullets, and you need to be writing that down. But I've been saying that for 20 years.
That's why I put little text on the
Right.
slide itself. So
Right. But they end up with little text, So when I encourage them to come to see me early on, and I ask them to bring their notes, and 90% of the time their notes look just like PowerPoints. So then we got to talk about that again. Right? So you probably experience a similar thing.
And that's something that I probably could do better for my classes. Although I want them to be independent, maybe checking in with the note taking. Because I can't just assume they can do it. I mean, we do teach that in our other classes before they get to enrollment. I use a lot of note-taking study guides that have a lot of space for them to put things in. But then again, that's a schema I gave them, or an outline I gave them. Not necessarily one that works for them, or how they make sense of the information.
It's an interesting experience. When I first took my job here, I went down to Augusta to listen to somebody talk about, I guess it had to do with teaching and technology. And this guy went on and on and on about how he provided handouts for his students they weren't really study guides, but they were, to facilitate note-taking. And what they had were major points and blanks. And that, so that as he went along, students could fill in the blank and didn't have to spend all their time. And I was like, really? This is totally wrong. This is not what you do. I think that the other thing that I think students believe, and which contradicts everything we know in psychology about how to study and how to learn, is that it should be easy. And that our job as teachers is to make it easy. It ain't easy. It's not supposed to be easy, right? If it's easy, you're doing it wrong, okay? So prepare to sweat, right? When students get out of your class, they should be tired, they should be worn out. Well, they're not doing it right. So anyway, all right, so I want to get back to this thing about focusing on the big ideas. And I'm hoping that I can share some big ideas with you guys, at least the ones that I use in my class, right? Because I hate it when you maybe go to a meeting and I come away with nothing useful. And then the other thing that we do to get students to learn, and I think I've heard you talking about it, is by doing stuff. Okay? So whether you use the buzzword active learning, whether you use the buzzword critical thinking, whether you use the buzzword experiential learning, we're talking about doing stuff, not just passively receiving stuff, right? We're making it active. And one way to make it active is through doing, okay? So I've heard you talk about asking students how something applies to them. So we're talking about reflections, or applications, or projects. Okay? Doing also includes reading and writing, right? And so I'm sure you guys are suffering from the same problem that I'm suffering from, and that is that students don't feel like they need to read. It's become more and more common that we've got students coming to college thinking that you don't need to read. And if you don't need to read in college, I don't know where you need to read. I haven't solved the problem, except that if you don't read, you're not going to pass. So you have to structure things so that, right, I want you to know about what I talk about in class. And I'm going to weight most of the points towards that, right? But I do not presume to know it all. Dave Myers is much broader knowledge than I do, and has been working, has a full-time job working on this technique with my professor.
Oh, you got that in?
Yes. And talk about self-actualization.
Yeah.
This guy,
Yeah.
he's just dynamite. Anyway.
Hope College?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good grades.
Okay.
So I don't presume to be able to give you all the information in my little PowerPoints that you need to know. So there needs to be some kind of way that you get rewarded for reading the book. And that's where, the quizzes come in. But yet, again, this comes back to psychology, reward and punishment. Students aren't going to do what they don't get something out of, right? So you gotta, but you gotta give them some kind of incentive to do the reading.
Is rewarded is done.
Just out of curiosity, do you structure your class with a point scheme adding up to a 100, or is it a percentage?
If I could do it to 100, I would, but since I've become relying more and more on Blackboard, which has a minimum number of 1 point per quiz item, that means each quiz, each 15-point quiz is 15 points. There are, 10, 11 quizzes, and then I don't want the quizzes to be worth more than tests, and so before you know it, I'm up to 600 points.
So it's you earn points rather than an average of I've got my class structure right now, so it's 25%.
How's that?
25% exams, 25%
Right.
outside assignments, 25% literature review.
Well, it's all one and the same,
So,
because you add up,
which is,
well, but I do, I guess, use the percentage system, because I will, once I learned that the minimum number of points on a quiz for Blackboard was 15, I decided that my tests were going to be worth 60, because they should have been worth a percentage more, that kind of thing. So it all swaps.
In your classes, midterm and final? Or
Don't do them.
Don't do it. Just curious.
But I'm not going to even say that's my failing. That's what I've learned from experience. When I was in college, midterms and finals, I just got tired of flunking everybody, right? So, students didn't have the discipline or the organizational skills or whatever, to be able to take what they knew, what I gave them in a whole semester, in a whole half a semester, and give it back to me, show me that they learned it in one test. So I give them an exam over every 2 chapters. And they don't have as much to worry about. I don't think that that's ideal, but I just, when it comes to a point where you have to end up giving everybody 20, 30, 40 points, right, just to have a normal distribution, I'm just not going to do that either.
Yeah, this is going to get interesting here, so most of the proficiency base is
Right.
we're not going to be scaling, and
Right.
averaging, and all those things.
So when you're proficiency based, you can't run a curve. Proficiency based sounds wonderful.
No, it doesn't. We shall see.
So you guys have talked about having students go and read peer-reviewed journals. When I first started teaching my intro course, and I want to get back to this, right now I'm having them do reflective journal assignments, which does not require, it does require them to understand stuff and apply stuff, and so those are good. But I'm either gonna swap those out for what I was doing earlier, or I'm gonna make them do both of these things. And that is, and I would encourage you to have them do brief summaries of peer-reviewed journals. Okay, now it's tough, because these days, the scientific literature is becoming so complex that it's hard to find something that you can understand, let alone the students, okay? But I'm going back and I'm finding stuff from back in the 60s. 1 or 2 page articles that have an introduction, method, results, and discussion sections, okay? And I asked,
Sorry, what's your resource for finding those?
I've got a collection now of a dozen of these things, which I'd be happy to share, but I just went out and I searched.
Yeah, I mean, I think the academic search stuff, the main library network that you have access to, EBSCO and all those things. You can search by psychology journals.
But I'm telling you that it is tough because people because things have become so narrow in such specialized fields that they're talking about stuff already right off the bat that your students, it's 5 levels in. And then they're using all of this funky statistics, which I tell students when you get to the results section, skip all the numbers, just try to read between them and try to make sense of it. But they're using statistical terms, regression and this and that. It's just become very, very complex.
Makes me feel better about the approach I've taken with peer-reviewed journal articles, because with that said, and maybe this is not the way I should do this, you don't necessarily have to read the whole thing. You have to understand the conclusions of this study.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't go that far. This is what I tell them. I said there are 4 questions you got to answer, and I can tell you exactly where to find the answers to these questions. You need to answer the first and most important question is why was the study done? Hypothesis. You'll find that at the end of the introduction. How was the study done? Methods. What were the results? What do the results mean? Well, the results in the results section, what do the results mean in the discussion section? All comes back. I tell them the most important question is why was the study done? Because the answer to every other question comes back to that question. They'll ask me, well, do I have to say that there were 540 students who were participating in the study and that 79 were males and whatever were females, right? Well,
Good stuff to know, but...
good stuff to know, but the answer to your question is, does it help answer the why question, right? Now, if the study was on the effects of gender on something, then I guess you do, right? But if the hypothesis had nothing to do with gender, then that's an irrelevant detail, okay? I can't think of an exercise that's better to get students to really understand material than a little brief summary exercise. I say 2 pages, 1.5 to, or 1 to 2 pages, okay? And I give them a 2 or 3 page article. And I want you to answer those 4 questions. Before I do that, I have them go pick a topic, generate a reference list. Okay? And it sounds like you've done some of that.
Annotated bibliography.
I don't know from an annotated bibliography, I guess that's something big in anthropology.
They like, anthropologists like annotated bibliography. Yeah.
And that's just a blurb for each article?
Essentially, yeah, your citation and then your, essentially, how did you or could a person use this source in a paragraph?
Okay.
Which I do like that one.
Yeah.
As
As long as it gets to understanding, and as long as it gets them to exposure to the primary literature.
is the author credible? That's more teaching research, I think, that use it than anything else, but,
That's becoming a more and more difficult, the whole fake news thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy, it's crazy. If there were ever a time where students needed to be able to, distinguish the BS from reality, this is it. And that's what, education is all about.
We've had to work a lot this year to talk about what a blog is, and why maybe you might not want to use that as your source here.
Everybody's an expert.
Everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
But does the person have they done any scientific studies on this topic, and do they work with this subject as part of their job? Do they have any training? Are there other
It's
journals that cite their work? I mean, it's quicker to just Google it. Google Scholar helps a little bit, but
It used to be a lot easier. I missed the card catalog because you just used to be able to trust what was in the card catalog now.
Yeah, the Reader's Guide.
So let me, just so that you have some idea of what I'm talking about with the big ideas, maybe something that you can, structure some of your stuff around, right? First, and this is, not an exclusive list, but just some ideas. Scientific process. This is a must, right? This is huge. Everything else comes around this. I don't even have to teach psychology. We just need to. This is about where the most important course that I teach is a course in research methods, because it teaches how to think, right? And now you apply that to your fields, but it's all about how to think, right? How we think in psychology is like how we think in anthropology, is like how we think in all these other disciplines, okay? So students need to know about empiricism and the importance of evidence, okay? They need to know about the process, because it makes sense, right? Research isn't something to be afraid of. Research is what the process of thinking about science, and research is what we do every time. I read an article once about an anthropologist digging up bones, an archaeologist, and sees a bone and thinks, oh, that could be, this animal. That's his hypothesis. He goes like this and uncovers more of it and finds evidence and goes, oh no, I see, it has this and this, it must be something else. Maybe it's this. And goes like this. He's gone through the process. We do that.
And an anthropologist looks at the scientific method and says, okay, here's a human creation for understanding the world. We've created this,
right,
to help understand our world.
Right. And then Trump comes along and says, humans are fallible. We're stupid. We're monkeys with car keys. I tell my students this: you think you're so freaking smart because the space, we sent men to the moon and we go off in the space shuttle. You didn't do that, okay? You don't know nothing. You can't bake a loaf of bread, right? Now your grandmother could. You actually know less. Right? What we know, what we give ourselves credit for as humans, is saved up in our libraries and in our technological advances. Okay? As individuals, we're profoundly ignorant. We make all kinds of silly mistakes. Think about investments and superstition and all this sort of stuff. Okay? We cannot trust our reasoning. Right? I read some other thing recently that says humans are smart enough to know when they make mistakes, but not smart enough to stop making them. Right? So we need this method to rely on, to have something to trust so that we can come at the truth. We can arrive there, because we can't trust ourselves and our intuition to get there. It won't work. Okay? So this is the most important thing you're ever going to learn. right? And it's what separates, you know, the politicians from the scientists, right? So this is a good graphic that you can find in your Myers textbook. Here's my I don't think my animations are actually not working. Hang on. There we go. Use timings. No, I don't want to use timings. I'm not even using them. There we go. This is a little clip by it's my favorite quote, Mark Twain. It has to do with the scientific attitude, right? What gets us into trouble is not what we don't know, it's what we know for sure that just ain't so, right? Right? So it's perfectly fine to admit you don't know something. It'll keep you out of trouble. The problem is when people go around with absolutely no information whatsoever. Boggles my mind that people have done no work, no research to figure anything out, and yet evolve opinions on the basis of this. Opinions about climate change and so forth. They're willing to lay down their lives for it, right? They don't know it. They don't know they don't know it. Okay? Save ourselves a lot of trouble as human beings if we would all get on board, right? Follow the scientific method and arrive at the truth. Another big idea, nature and nurture as interactive processes are big themes, right?
Big in anthropology too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. It dawned on me at one point, you can use this, that when we talk about nature and nurture, we tend to just take Darwin as, well, that's nature, and nurture is Darwin is the perfect example of the interaction of nature and nurture, okay? I understand it's not true, but let's assume it was true that giraffes evolved long necks because the trees have leaves that are tall, trees, right? If that giraffe grew up in any other nurturing environment, long-neckedness would not be adaptive, right? So the theory of evolution by natural selection is itself a blend of nature and nurture. It's not just about nature. Okay? There's a lot of research with Darwin. There's a lot of research on epigenetics these days, which is really cool. Okay? These mice are twins, but their mother was fed something. One of their mothers was fed some chemical at a critical period during gestation, right? Same genes, but different ones were influenced by environmental factors, okay? So all kinds of really, this is, the kind of whole genetic stuff is just going crazy these days. Okay?
One of the things my students tend to find fascinating is the critical period hypothesis.
Yeah.
The Jeannie and Victor.
Jeannie?
Yeah.
Who's Victor?
Victor, so Jeannie was the woman that was in the home, and Victor was the child, like a wild child.
Feral child.
Feral child, basically,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So they find those examples.
Yeah, they love that stuff. There was and my students in South Carolina turned me on to another young woman, girl.
And the first thing they did, that this didn't happen, was they wanted to Google to see if Jeannie was still alive.
She is.
Yeah, yes. That
Home in
was-
California.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that, before I even finished speaking, they were checking to see, if she's.
Have you heard about the transgender girl who had a show? You can just YouTube transgender child, and she'll come up, and she's all the rage. So here we've got, I guess it was a biological boy who, at age 4, insisted he was a girl, and has lived that way, and her parents have, gone along with the whole thing, and makes a strong case. And then there's another clip that I show my kids. I don't know why the whole gender thing is just so fascinating, but it is about a little boy in England. And this was ancient, but you can still find the clip on YouTube. Who during there was an accident during a circumcision that his wiener completely smoked off.
This example.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that stuff. And so you can contrast his outcome, right? Anyway, okay. So I guess so here's a third process that puts a lot of, that you can use to link a lot of content together, right? Assimilation and accommodation is about schema development, right? The development of schemas, according to Piaget, is how we come to learn and understand stuff, okay?
In culture, say socialization and in culture. Yeah.
So I would avoid merely going over Piaget's stages, but try to link those to, why do we call this sensory motor? It's because the schemas at this stage, your level of understanding are based on, right, how you understand the world. This is your worldview, your knowledge is what you can stick in your mouth and what you can manipulate, what you can see and smell. And therefore, the inability to appreciate object permanence makes perfect sense, right? So it all fits together. That's when you have arrived at a level of understanding, there are no parts left over, right? It all makes sense. Oh yeah, I see. Associative processes. If you use that as a big idea, all learning and all memory is based on association. Then you can walk them down the path of, okay, associations between what and what. Classical conditioning is association between a previously neutral stimulus like a bell and a previously unconditioned stimulus, the bone. Operant conditioning is an association between a behavior and its consequences, right? Retrieval cues, when you start talking about memories, are based on association. It's all based on association. So if you start using that as kind of your big idea, then you can tie it all together. Everything makes sense through this. So associations are like laundry day, right? It's the big idea that makes everything else make sense.
We both have kids that are 2 or 3, so.
Oh, yeah?
So it's a lot of fun to be teaching these things.
Uh-huh.
Your kids are learning.
Yeah.
And seeing it in action.
It's seeing it in action.
No, I haven't ever, I've got a nephew and I'm right now living with a 10-year-old. He's past the more interesting periods. He's just basically a pain in the ass. But
So we've
maybe
got 10 years, you think?
Huh?
We've got 10 good years before
Yeah.
the training?
8 anyway, right?
You're bummed out because you missed the Freud's, what is it, the Oedipal stage?
Freud was right, about boys.
So I have a girl, I have a boy.
Yeah.
I think he was right.
Yeah.
The
The Oedipal and the Electra.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Same situation, my son wanted to be on mom all the time, and it was fun.
Yeah. At least in our experience,
Yeah. I don't know from that kind of stuff with my niece and my nephew. My brother is a boy and a girl too. They are, but speaking with a personality, completely opposite people. It's not the parents. It's not the way they brought them up. That gets back to the nature nurture thing,
Yeah. Some personalities, environment, and
Well, an awful lot of it
Yeah.
is genes.
Yeah.
An awful lot of it is genes. But see, so this is the thing about the nature nurture thing, It comes down to it. The home environment isn't nearly as impactful as we think it is. And this is like the big lesson of that whole thing. Aside from neglect and abuse, right? If you're feeding your kid and you're not eating it on a regular basis, your kid is going to be your kid. What really matters, right, is the genes. But the genes are influenced by experiences.
Well, what's David Meyer's line? Genetics deals the hand, the environment plays the cards.
He's got so many good ones
Yeah.
like that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Another one he said about nature nurture is nature begets nurture.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Guy's a he's got such a way.
Oh, yeah, he does, yeah.
So when you get down to near the end of the class and you start getting into my area, personality and social psychology. Here's a big idea. This was, well, that's a typo, but do you recognize this as Kurt Lewin's classic equation that behavior is a function of the person and the situation, okay? That's why I teach these two chapters in the same unit with one test, okay? If you want to predict and understand how somebody behaves, you need to know their personality characteristics, but you also need to know the situation that they're in, okay?
Julian Roder talks about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, another way I like to think about this, I tell students, is that this behavior, this equation can be read as behavior is a function of what personality psychologists study and what social psychologists study. Personality psychologists study things like traits or whatever, depending on their bent. And social psychologists study the social situation. Okay?
So if someone's a counselor,
Yeah.
they're working with the parents on the situation maybe in school, or the situation at home, they're missing a piece of it. Some of it's the genes too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the worst thing that, see, this is, psychologists have been burned on more than one occasion for ruining lives of parents by telling them, the whole history with autism and everything. Parents were blamed for their autistic children. Right? Now we look back at that and we think that's just silly. Well, it's silly, yeah, and it's silly to blame your kids, for a lot of what you're blaming parents. Sorry, it's silly to blame parents for a lot of what is happening with kids. I was just reading an article. It seems, to hear me talk, you'd think I do an awful lot of reading. I don't. But I was reading an Atlantic Monthly article just last night on, it's about what do you do with your psychopathic child. They're, finding kids getting diagnosed with conduct disorder as early as 4 or 5 years old. I mean, they're killing their pets. They're choking their siblings, okay? And parents, are not responsible for this, except to the extent that they contributed genes.
Yeah, at 4 now.
Here. So that's Lewin's equation. I like to, this is another big idea when it comes to personality perspective. You remember the personality chapter. I like to use puzzle as a metaphor, saying that nobody's got the bead on what is personality. You don't go to any one personality theorist and get the right answer about personality. Each one contributes a different part, right? So, unconscious and irrational nature of man, right? We don't dismiss Freud. For a lot of what Freud said was completely wrong and bogus, right? But he was right that the unconscious plays a huge role, and that people are irrational. We rationalize, our behavior after the fact. We don't know why we do what we do. We'll always come up with a plausible rationalization for it, right? And if you don't understand that, you don't understand an important part of personality.
Yes. We're always trying to rationalize what we do.
From the humanists, right, the positive potential, the notion of the self as an organizing principle. From the trait theorists, which you can't see here, individual differences in traits. From the social cognitive perspective, cognitive processes in the social context. And then I asked them, which of these 4 perspectives best illustrates Lewin's idea? And they usually get this one right? Because it was only Albert Bandura who really wasn't even a personality psychologist. He said, in order to understand people, you need to know the person, you need to know the situation, you need to know the behavior. So that's a big organizing principle in that area. And then when it comes to disorders in therapy, you can take those same 4 major perspectives and apply them to therapy. You got your psychodynamic, your humanistic. Things break down a little bit. Your cognitive and cognitive behavioral would be Bandura. Here's your behaviorists, right? And here, I got this from Myers too. This is a very, very useful table. It shows the big picture, dissociative principles, says that once you understand the perspective that we just covered, right, Freud's theory, then you know the presumed problem, the reason why people, for example, are neurotic is because of unconscious conflicts. It therefore follows, right, here's the cause, then here's the solution, right? You should be aiming to reduce anxiety, and therefore it follows, this is what we should do to do that. It all makes sense, right? And so students, if they really understand, they don't have to memorize all this, it just all kinds of falls into place. Right? That's the way I like to teach the intro class. I don't know if it's the best way, it's certainly not the only way, but the more I've been teaching, the further back I step, the more I look at the big ideas, the more I realize that the content isn't as important as it is how you approach it and how you go about understanding stuff. Right? If I could, psychology's got its content, right? But how did we get there, right? How do we understand that content? It's all about theories. It's all about discovery. It's all about the research, which is why I think the brief summary thing and giving them an initial exposure to the literature is important. I'm not doing it now. I got derailed, and now I'm doing some other little assignments, but I want to come back to that. It means you got to read a bunch of papers.
Right. One thing I taught in college before we had to do a little bit of elective, and I didn't get the schedule to come back to it. One thing I didn't do when I did it this year was having them look at some of the more famous anthropologist theories. Did it very briefly. I think I probably want to come back to that. And, maybe pick one, or assign one, and do a reflection or piece, and then present it. So.
I would say, more than tell me the nuts and bolts of this theory, I would be more like, I think it would be more useful to say, why was this theory proposed and what problem does it solve, right? Because that's what a theory is. A theory is an explanation.
And with anthropology, why did they choose this group of people to study?
Right.
When they did it, why would they, group in Trobriand Islands or something? Why that population?
Anyway, that's all I got. If you guys have got any questions for me, or if you can enlighten me in any ways, I'm pretty sure that the stuff I discovered about the difference between college and high school is correct, because I keep running into the problem of the passive student, right? Where they expect to be told, I love that question, will this be on the test?
I think that is the nature of what we're doing.
Yeah, I wonder what degree of proficiency might alter that, or if it will.
It's good if we can get back to you're the learner.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what we've asked for at community high school is to separate out, we have a few AP offerings at our school in the early college. And we've asked those to be separate from the proficiency business, and our administration has said yes, because they are in a different world. The proficiency business, I think, asks for a lot of revising, revision, which, like Kurt said, you get to college, I mean, you gotta know it. And I think our job, I see my job sometimes at, the 9-12 scenario. My job is to help kids to better understand that content, so when they get to your level, when they get to Eric and Adelhaft's world history class over here, that they know their ideas, and you can, my job is to take them deep, but again, when I'm dealing with a 9th grader in world history, I can only take them so far, because I'm going to lose them, and it's not going to take very long. Same thing with an 11th grader in the college psychology, but my hope is that I've given them a good enough foundation, so when they get to you, or, wherever they plan to go, is that, they're able to, okay, yeah, you know what, I studied Marty Seligman, and, I know his power of positive psychology. I get the ideas behind, Pavlov and Pavlov's dog, classical conditioning. I think, I don't want us to think that they're the juniors that I teach are little college people. They're not, they're still high school students and developmentally, and we gotta get them.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's work on that, because I'm a little confused about this too.
There's a big difference between a ninth grader and a 12th grader.
Huge, huge.
Right, now, when this whole thing started out, it was just for 12th graders.
It is.
Has it backed down from that?
Juniors.
So now it's 11th and 12th.
Right.
And I've heard them kicking around ideas that it might go even back further than that.
And it depends on the student.
And that's what I was gonna say, you know, kids mature at different ages and kids have different abilities.
Correct.
Now, you know, I'm thinking that early college should, if you're gonna follow the name, early college, you're gonna use that, it's not gonna have any meaning, then this is going to be a subset of those that are developmentally advanced and capable 12th graders who can handle this and who should be taking a college class.
Well, here's the thing, you know, and I'm not sure how other schools do, you know, pick these students, but my understanding is that they have to meet certain criteria. They come over here, they take the active placer as a follow-up to the SAT. And then all those students who qualify, their names are put into a lottery and they're drawn out by lottery. In other words, they've met the criteria, but, you know, at our school, I think they only accept 20 per class. So the names
there
are
is-
drawn by a lottery.
Okay, but there is a minimum requirement
Yes,
that has to be
yeah.
met before they're in the class.
And Scott could tell you what that is, or my wife over at the high school, who's the guidance counselor.
So then why, I mean, I thought I just heard you say that your kids still are high school students.
Right. Well, they're 17, 16,
I
17 years
understand
old.
that, but really, I mean, but we've weeded out the
Yeah.
weaker students and these.
Right, right.
Now we gotta treat these as college students.
Correct, correct.
As long as that's happening.
Right.
Then it seems to me we can continue to call it early college.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah. The other piece that I was gonna say is, you know, I wonder sometimes too if students run interference between, you know, what it is that we're, you know, their non-college classes and their traditional courses and what they've, you know, been exposed to, you know, over the years of, you know, their middle school and high school years. You know, meeting deadlines. I understand your point about meeting deadlines, but, you know, sometimes, you know, meetings are called by parents and administration. Well, the child missed the deadline. Well, what can the child do to catch up? Well, when you're sitting in a meeting, you're kind of handcuffed now. You know,
Well,
the deadline means something, but, you know, but if a child is failing and, well, can this child, you know, and you're getting the pressure
We
sitting
have
there.
to get them through successfully.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I
We
understand.
don't have a choice.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's high
There's a
stakes
lot
for
of
everybody,
pressure
you know.
to make sure they get
So
through
what you're
successfully.
saying is that the structure, the context in which you are embedded really does kind of preclude an honest early college experience.
I wonder that sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they do have to get through.
right.
You can't,
They don't necessarily have to get through a course.
Yeah, our courses are
Well,
not
then,
such, in our school,
Yeah.
that in any way, shape, or form, unless they have made many mistakes previously, these courses determine graduation for us. Because they're only required.
can they pass the course as a high school class and flunk it as a college class? That's interesting. Seems like that should be an option. If the classes really are different.
We would have to find a way to assess twice, to assess them 2 times, the high school.
Well, it seems like a rubric would be good for that, right? You know, rubrics typically distinguish between levels of understanding, right?
But if it's, the only difference for us in the class right now, and this might be a little bit for you because of the AP thing, but for us, it's they choose to do dual enrollment or they don't. This is a college class, the content's going to be taught at a college level. It would make sense for you
If
to.
you don't apply to take the
If
college
you don't
credits.
apply to
that's
take the college
your
credit,
problem.
that's your problem. So, but it's not, they might need the college to get enough credits to graduate, but they've already, by the time they take these, they've already met their 3 social studies that are required.
Oh.
So, or hopefully. And, you know, so they might be doubling up if they're a junior, taking their last required one and this one. So unfortunately, in a situation there, we're not going to have a student, you know, flunk it for college but get credit for high school. I don't think I would want that situation.
Yeah, I see the point.
We had, before we started working with UMFK, we were working with Thomas to do this.
Yeah.
Thomas College had
Yeah.
something. Much less interaction with them. No real follow-up, no conversation about what are your expectations and do they really line up with what we're doing.
Well, this is relatively new. I mean, I think UMFK's been doing this for a while, but now Scott's worried about accreditation.
Well, I think that's good.
Oh, it's-
I think that's good to have, but then, you know, I know Umpy started doing this after UMFK did. And I don't have a lot of knowledge of it, but I think part of the reason, for example, that Prescott Isle went to Umpy, not just in location, Prescott High School, is because UMFK was looking for, like, they had high school teachers up in arms that you had to have masters to do these. I don't know if Umpy requires that. So,
Well, I don't think we do.
yeah, I think you have to
Yeah,
have
you do,
masters.
yeah.
Oh, but not a master's in the field. right?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I, you know, and I don't know if that's necessarily a qualification, but I just think, kind of on your topic there is some questions on rigor that come up here. James and I know, I think you do an AP, we definitely, we want to be rigorous.
Yeah,
We want
yeah.
kids to be rigorous, and we want kids.
Well, I don't know how many other psychology faculty, high school faculty are out there. But, you know, I figured the ones that would show up here would be the ones that really care, you know. But they're, you know, I don't know who they are.
A lot of, and a lot
I
of,
think it's kind
a lot
of
of teachers
failing.
have degrees in education, you know, K-12 teachers, but not in the content. I'm an exception, I think, probably. I got into education after I graduated, kind of an accident. I really enjoyed it.
How's that?
Well, I majored in political science and anthropology and graduated, went back to my summer job just for that summer, which was guiding rafts on Penobscot River.
Oh.
And there wasn't a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
And my, Miss Jackie's mother at the
Yeah.
time said, you know, we could use some subs in the middle school.
Yeah.
She said, technically. So I went in and started subbing. I said, wow, you know, I had my summer off and keep guiding.
Do you do it still?
I do still, yeah. And so I got.
Because your wife's from Millinocket, right?
She is.
Yeah.
So I got hired as an ed tech.
Yeah.
And then this social studies position was like a week before school started opened in Fort Fairfield. And I had applied to a couple places with a conditional certificate, the state gave me the conditional certificate. And nobody took it seriously, you know, 'cause I didn't have any teaching experience or a degree in education. But at the interview, I said, well, I've been a student for 14 years, I know how schools work. I did say that.
Yeah.
And I also had taught skiing to 7 to 14-year-olds in Chickasaw all through high school and college too. That was my other part-time job. So anyway, I got
Man,
hired.
you got some pretty cool part-time jobs.
I love my part-time. Yes, I got hired and then got my master's through the school in
Yeah.
education. So, but yeah, you know, my first experience as a job was in-school suspension summer.
Yeah.
In Millinocket Middle School. Then it was gym, then it was science, and I said, I got to do this. Here I am. But not a lot of, like James is kind of an exception too. He double, I can't remember, but he has a degree in education, but also in history. Do you think most K through 12 teachers are ed majors?
Oh, yeah. They're all the same.
So that's an area
Yeah.
with the dual enrollment thing,
Yeah.
you know, might be a factor for specialized subjects like psychology.
Yeah.
Math, I don't know.
And a lot of people have their master's degrees in a K-12 setting,
Right.
it's usually administration.
Usually,
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Mine was just not ed leadership, like content literacy. Yeah, just content literacy.
Yeah, I know the problem that we were having. You guys know Bruno Hicks?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I had my master's class. So,
Oh.
yeah, he My master's was sort of a blended thing with USM and all the rest of the university. So we had education professors from almost every campus in the university system.
And you know Bruno?
I'm sorry?
Bruno Hicks?
I know who he is, I don't know him.
I think he met with me last year.
Yes.
Yeah, he's my best buddy here, and he took a job as Dean of Education
No, he left.
down in Massachusetts.
No, I didn't know he left.
I know his daughter, something.
Emma, she's
Graduated at Umpy.
Yeah. I think she's teaching what, Final Haven, Wellsboro? Yeah.
She and I were at the conference.
Oh, were you? Yeah. I taught at Fort Kent Community High School. Yeah, I taught music. Yeah. Yeah. And you taught at Katahdin? I did. My wife's a graduate of Katahdin, so back in the 80s. Yeah. She's a Rush from Benedictine. Yeah. Tons of them. Yeah.
Tons of them.
Yeah.
They're from Benedictine, your name is Rush.
McAvoy.
Duffy.
Duffy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife's aunts would be Kathy Duffy Stanley, who taught at the elementary school.
Oh, I'm sure.
Brittany Duffy. Brittany was the curriculum coordinator, I guess, for SAP 25. Christine Cunningham,
Yeah.
my wife, are first cousins. She's a Rush. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, are you from down there?
No, I grew up in Bedford, down on the coast, down the southern side.
And I'm from the Bangor area. But my wife went to the University of Prescott.
Yeah.
And I got hired for it, and funny story about that. I came back from the interview, and she's waitressing at the restaurant going on. How'd it go? Good. That's a long way. Never been that far. Never been north of Holton. And she realized it's 20 minutes from where I go to school. I said, make that connection. I'd love to have that job. Yeah. So, and it all worked out. She got hired to do the 21st century in the district. And
Yeah.
Won the guidance council.
When Michelle Mondor left.
Well, Michelle came in temporarily.
Yeah.
When Michelle was, yeah.
My mom and Michelle Mondor were high school classmates.
Oh, okay.
Michelle's from Bedford.
Yes, that's right. She is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you must know Mark Gendron then too, our
I know who Mark is, yeah, I know who Mark is.
Hard not to.
Yeah, yeah. He's from Bedford, yeah.
Back down there again.
Yeah, I heard he's retired, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, when I teach the psychology to my juniors, I'm trying to instill a love of the subject too in them. And, my hope is that, I always ask them when they come back,
Was it helpful?
I figure after they graduate, they're fair game. You can't ask them how well I'm doing when grades are hanging over their head because they're going to tell me what I want to hear. And so, listen, you were right on,
On those lines, like last year was the first year I taught microeconomics to students.
I know Brad Ritz.
What's that?
Do you know Brad Ritz?
I don't, but I probably should make some connections because I did not take a lot of economics in college, but some.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to try. I went really well. I have 2 students now at USM who had no plans to major in economics, but now have. So when I was down there for a college tour, one of them knew we were there and came over and said, please tell me, I need, honestly, was this class helpful? Yeah, absolutely. So I said, okay, I must have done something.
Yeah.
So
I constantly ask my students that.
Dalton. So I had 2 that took a dual enrollment and then chose to major in it, went to USM, so majoring in it. The Dismal Science. What's the book? Naked Economics, Undressing the Dismal Science.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard it as an audiobook. I listened to it going up and down the interstate, and it was, it was written, let's put these concepts into a schema you can understand, and a lot of real-world examples of how these things work.
I was going to say that it's kind of a recognized problem for art education students, that they were learning about education, but they weren't learning what they needed, the content that they actually need to educate people with, right? So it would probably be difficult for one of them to go teaching mathematics. Because they can tell you all about how to teach it.
Right, yeah.
But they didn't know any
That's
math.
a big difference between elementary school teachers and secondary school teachers. I
Really?
find. You find it the same.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My major was, my primary major was.
We talked about this where you were
Our
out.
primary major was anthropology. Melissa's the other, she year with us, with her primary major was chemistry.
Yeah.
And our high school teachers are very much more, they're more content driven in their own disciplines.
Well, I guess if I understand what you're saying, if you're in primary education, you probably don't need to know all of the content.
I find it very challenging though to have, as we move towards proficiency-based education, we try to have a conversation with some of our K-12 teachers about social studies things. One reason being they are not given time in the day to actually teach social studies and science. It's mostly reading, writing, and math. That's the bulk of their day, and the way their day's scheduled. Right. But even to have a conversation about big themes in teaching history when they're in K-12,
Yeah.
it's very challenging to have that conversation. I feel like I'm upsetting them because I'm talking over them sometimes. Not because they just don't have the
Yeah, yeah.
time and they haven't had the, you know, which is too bad.
What's the rest of your days looking like?
I think we're supposed to have a break here at some point.
Yeah, I think just a few minutes here, about 5-10 minutes, right?
Thank you, though. This was
Yeah.
this is good to be able to have this type of conversations with somebody who's teaching in college.
I guess you guys get together all the time.
We're so
Do you-
fortunate.
Do you do one of
No,
these?
I just, this is the first time we met these.
Well, you should just change it.
Yeah.
We should, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to get both of your email addresses, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Yeah, mine is KURTHOLZ.
You should have.
HOLZ.
Yeah, at Maine. I'd be happy to send you, I've got all kinds of, I got an extensive collection of videos and perceptual demonstrations and all kinds of stuff I've been collecting over the years, so if, you know, you have anything in particular you think you might, want to try to hit me up for, ask, and I'll see if I can look through my library too, and come up with.
J. Smith
J. Smith,
at MSAD20.
MSAD20.org. And Garrett?
G. Martin?
Garrett?
Yes.
2 R's, 2 T's?
2 R's, 2 T's.
Yeah.
You just need G and MARTIN at MSD1.
G.
SAD 20.
.org.
It's yours, MSAD 27?
Yeah, Scott Sivany, SCV, yeah. SCOTT. SEV. IG. NY. At. SAD. 27.org.
.org.
.org.
Really?
.too.
Yeah.
Forget why that.
Maine.edu, right? For, yeah.
Forget why that came about, that you ended up, I once asked that question. Something about the domain from Gmail.
Right, yeah, that's what I was told through you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you as well.